Imagine for a moment that you were not there. Alone, not even if you. All alone, and if I told you that something, a formless presence without a face, voiceless, walks by your side for a long time. Time is something that you cannot see, but that feel every thought a little, which one does not hear, but which nourishes. From the silent sound of your emotions, denser, and if I told you that it, beings that drink your energy as if from water in the great tradition. Esoterically, there is such an old idea, as disturbing as there are subtle ways, parasitic creatures that attach themselves to the energetic bodies of beings, people, and feed on their vitality. We are not talking about literary metaphors or fears, superstitious, but a cosmology, well articulated by mystical alchemists and occultists for centuries. The ancients, others called them astral larvae. Less poetry, they called them demons of invisible aircraft in modern times. Some interpret it as psychic projections, thoughts, form they have acquired in life. Autonomous, but the name doesn't matter. What matters is that you are here and you could feed without. Do you know that you have felt this tiredness? Inexplicable, that not even the dream deep can dissolve. Have you noticed how your mood drops for no apparent reason? You have experienced dark thoughts that seem to come from a part of you that you do not recognize are symptoms that many they ignore, that others pathologize, but some wise men have learned to read like signs of something much deeper. Invasion. Energetically, this video is not intended not so fear, but create awareness. For knowledge is the lamp that dispel the shadow. Let us explore what these are. Energy parasites, such as they act, how they manifest themselves, and most important, how to free yourself from its influence. We will delve into the teachings, hermetic warnings for alchemists like Paracelso, and the stories by clairvoyants who see with the eyes of soul, have observed this other ecosystem, invisible, where emotions are crystallized into hungry creatures. Prepare for a deep journey, insightful and sometimes disturbing, because sometimes to regain your light, you must look straight ahead. What bothers you? Theft. Long before science modern will try to explain human behavior through neurotransmitters and diagnostics, even the wise men of antiquity, they warned of a form of invasion. Invisible, ancient peoples not. They had to see with their eyes to recognize the existence of entities that they worked on the subtle levels. They felt, sensed, and observed. Above all, through symbols, stories, and myths, they left evidence of the existence of energetic forms that are neither born nor they die on the physical plane, but can intervene in the human soul. In Egypt, for example, the concept of K and the Ba alluded to different dimensions. Being the K was a kind of doppelganger, energy susceptible to influences. Externally, it was said that if the Ka was weakened, the physical body made it sick and the spirit was separated from its path. This was not only interpreted as energy loss, but as an invasion of external forces, invisible beings that clung to the being's vital field. Man. The Gnostics, on the other side, they spoke of the archons, entities of astral plane that manipulated the human thoughts and emotions for feed on their suffering. These characters were not psychological metaphors, but realities that those who developed an inner vision. Gnosticism warned in its texts that the human soul could fall victim to these beings if they do not reach a state of inner alertness. Self-knowledge was the only barrier against this. Influences. In the Vedic tradition, the Upanishads and advanced yogis described the asuras, entities that spiritual development of the individual, especially if your prana or energy was vital. Unbalanced prana, according to them, flows through channels called nadis, and where there are traffic jams, energetic nest that promotes strength. Parasitic. Not coincidentally, many of these teachings insist on the cleansing of body and mind before any transport attempt. spiritual Western esotericism through his part From Paracelsus to Franz. Bardon documents the existence of what these are called astral larvae. Larvae formed by thoughts, obsessive unresolved emotions, or addictions acquire a kind of semi-autonomy attached to the human energy field, especially if the person vibrates anxiety, resentment, or chronic sadness. Bardon, he wrote that by allowing thoughts, the magician destructively weakened his inner shield and was, yes, inferior even in Christianity, mystics, and in Sufism, although with other languages refers to the presence of dark spiritual influences that are not. They have a body, but they also have an intention. Concept of unclean spirits or genes can also be understood as a form, archetype of non-energy parasites, are in themselves external forces, but catalysts that are activated when the spiritual field is broken or the ego takes complete control of the temple. Interior, the philosophy behind everything. These stories merge into one. The truth is that man does not live alone. We are bodies, multidimensional, and our body energy is a battlefield on which it plays out in every thought and in every emotions a battle. Silently, these beings do not enter through. The power seeps through the cracks of our unconsciousness due to trauma is not healed by the emotions that surround us. We refuse to feel and transform. Therefore, in all traditions, there is an insistence on the awakening of the awareness as a protective shield is not enough. To cleanse the physical body, one must be careful. The inner world at a glance. Constantly wake up because the shadows that affect us most do not come from outside, but from within, and only when we engage the light whose shadows lose their power. Feed on us. Not all thieves wear balaclavas, don't even fit through the door. Some silently enter the cracks in our energy field, disguised as persistent thoughts, emotions that do not disappear, and habits that we are slowly being destroyed by parasites. Energetics does not manifest as monstrous figures, and their shape is visible. To operate is more subtle, sophisticated, camouflaged in us as if we're part of our identity, but they are not. To understand how these entities work, we must first understand that the body, man, does not end at his skin. Biology is intertwined with a field, electromagnetic, known to many traditions such as aura or body. Energetically, this field acts as protective membrane, but also as an antenna, absorbs, transmits, and resonates with the energies of the environment. When humans live in emotional states, chronic fear, guilt, hatred, envy, or sadness, that field begins to break. Think about it. Crystal cracked lets through what was before, is blocked at these vulnerabilities, where energy parasites find the opportunity to anchor themselves, and they don't do it randomly, they look for it. Finity, vibrational, that is, when your mind, permeated by thoughts of sacrifice, they will attract beings that feed exactly this frequency. You do not own entities like in a horror movie, but they start easily influence your decisions. Repeat the same thought loops to yourself. The loop of I cannot from no one me understands that I don't deserve it will your food, because every thought, every emotion is energy, and this energy can be absorbed. Imagine these beings are like remeras, small astral creatures that stick to the energetic body and absorb vitality. Slow, initially barely noticeable, but over time you feel more tired, confused, more separated from. Even the desire to move forward fades. Motivation dilutes ideas. The dark ones are gaining ground, and all this is happening without there being an obvious enemy, because the enemy, if there is one, appears disguised as your own inner voice. Energy parasite can also manifests itself through addictions. It is important whether it is a sugar addiction, drama, to toxic relationships, or to electronic devices, are an addiction. Contains a closed energy cycle. This is repeated incessantly, and this repetition, constant, that energy that is recycled without, is transformed into earth, fertile for these entities most. What is worrying is that many of these entities, they are protected by their hosts. How do you sow the fear of letting them go? What would you do if you realized that certain emotions that you believed were yours, reality is whispering of something that not everyone wants to watch inward, because the look requires courage and cutting these connections requires will. Wake up. It is no coincidence that in the ancient cleansing rituals, from herbal baths to fires, sacred dances, songs, and deep breaths, these elements, they were not just aesthetic, they were technologies, spiritual, designed to move energy, close open portals, and expel entities that were disguised between the folds of the soul. The good, the news is that these parasites are not invincible, but they must be removed with external formulas, be confronted with conscience, and there, the real work begins. Deep recognition of our own patterns and the decision to live out of clarity, not out of automatism, because only those who shadow can illuminate it from the center, the soul. Energy parasites are not only, they also feed on our vitality. They act as bridges to reality, parallels in which density prevails. These realities' consciousness is clouded, the will is weak, and the soul, it is perceived as fragmentary to understand. We must look beyond the world, physically, and understand that the vibration that we emit not only attracts, but also tunes into certain dimensions, existence. All intense emotions, and maintained if not converted, becomes the key that opens doors. Hate, for example, not only poisons the energetic body but refines our frequency towards aircraft, where the conflicts, resentment, and pain are common currency, and when a being, man, constantly vibrates in these levels, become vulnerable to external influences that are not visible to the eye, human but perfectly recognizable for the soul. The ancient sages did not speak of influences such as myths or metaphors, for they were as real as the sun or the country. In different cultures such as Toltecs, Egyptians, or Hindus, recognized the existence of entities that hovered around human energy fields, waiting for a break, a void, emotional neglect. These beings were sometimes described as hungry, wandering, or sticking, have no form defined but a constant need of food, vibration, and even more detailed. What is worrying is that these parasites can contact our area of emotional memory, that is, when a person experiences severe trauma, such as neglect, abuse, loss, or humiliation, and it does not heal it. An echo remains, an unresolved frequency that become an anchor for this. Over time, this emotion will not only remains and strengthens, artificial, and the person without knowing why the same thing is experienced again and again. Narrative of pain, rejection, or lack. This loop is partly maintained by these presences, invisible, but here appears one even deeper component of the unconscious. Consent is not enough. Suffer an energy attack so that it gives parasitism the true permission it. We give by giving certain mental habits, certain packs, unresolved emotional problems, and lock without key useless. Parasite does not stick without frequency. It's worth inviting him now. Let us ask ourselves, what are our internal alliances? Which thoughts every day we feed in silence? What emotions that we defend as if they were part of our identity, when reality is only terrible scars? Concluded, the answers to these questions not only reveal our condition, current energy, but also the invisible bonds that connect us. Some people start healing process or meditation, deep, feel strange resistances, body sensations, thoughts that do not fit your personal story, even physical interruptions when try to contact your inside. These manifestations are not It is always just psychological blockages. Sometimes these entities are trying to avoid his deportation because if we increase the frequency of breathing deep when we choose forgiveness, and gratitude weakens his anchors, and they know it because of many rituals. Ancestors focused on cutting bonds not only with people or memories, but with units that were accommodated in the energy body for years, even generations, because the parasitism can be inherited, especially if there is unresolved karma or unresolved lineages. Loaded with pain patterns, repeats the path to liberation begins with awareness. Identify these dynamics through. By naming them, we have already begun to power that we had given up, and then the alchemical turn occurs, we assume. Pray to be guardians of our own energy, like turning on the light in a forgotten room. The parasites do not had no choice but to disband in the face of the glow of a conscience. Wake up, live without being depleted by parasites. Energy is not a luxury, but a necessity for every soul that seeks grow in awareness and authenticity. But this protection does not come from talismans or hidden secrets outside. From you comes your intention, from your presence, and your daily spiritual discipline too. Next, we will reveal practices, powerful things you can integrate into your life to protect your energy and your sphere of influence. Harmful first, the power of silence. Consciously, one of the biggest mistakes of our time is the constant noise. We surround ourselves with information from stimuli of empty conversations. However, silence is an old medicine too. 10 minutes a day to be with yourself. In complete silence, without music, without guided tours, without expectations, your field enables. Energy is naturally reorganized into. In this silence, your soul finds its voice again, and parasites lose power because they no longer. You can manipulate a space that is not. Distraction. Second, deep breath and connection with abdominal breathing. Superficial is a symptom of separation. Energy parasites thrive when you are distracted, accelerated, or separated from body breathing. Bring the air deep into your belly, anchors your consciousness. Do it several times. Once a day, place one hand on your navel and another one above your heart and feel the connection between both centers. Is gesture reconnects you with your life energy and cuts the ropes that allow drainage. Third, review of the links. Emotionally, there are people who function because true energy does not consume, not necessarily out of evil, but because they themselves are parasitized. Think about who in your environment lets you exhausted after talking to him or her. What situations do you repeat without resolving them? Cutting or converting links is not. Egoism is wisdom, and if you cannot, keep physical distance and protect him energetically with visualizations daily, where you wrap yourself in light and they return each other's energy without recharging with what is not yours. Fourth, bathroom of drains water with natural elements. It is a natural channel of transmutation. Bathe at least once a week with marina salt, romero, or lavender. Imagine that all stagnant energy is released from your body and dissolves in the drain. This simple act has its roots in ancestral cleansing rituals and strengthen your field. Subtle. Fifth, monitoring your dialogue. In your head can be the greatest parasite if you don't have it. Every self-critical thinking, every judgment, every unresolved debt is constantly food for beings living in the distortion. A daily practice of mindfulness where you thoughts without identifying with them. The key is not in suppression, but see without reacting. If you do this, you begin to dissolve the mental patterns that they create, cracks through which it seeps. Dark. Sixth, energy supply and vibrational. Remember, not only eating through the body, but for your field food, overprocessed, full of chemicals, not only affect your physical health, they also weaken your shields. Energetically prefers live food, freshness that sun and earth have received. Bless every meal. The act of Consciousness transforms the ordinary into holy and not a dark being. Accommodation where there is light. Constantly shielding yourself is not a life with. Fear is living with power, and power is maintain daily breathing. Breathe thought by thought. Let every action you take be a pact with your soul, a silent declaration that says, "Here I command, this energy is sacred and no one can take it without my permission." Imagine for a moment that your field, energetically an old castle, shaped by centuries of experience, memories, thoughts, and emotions in the holiest part of you lives inside you. Essence, your divine spark, the light that, but this castle never goes out. The doors are not impregnable and window of your energy opened by carelessness, fear, or ignorance make it possible. Intrusion of invisible forces and entities, parasitic, which do not need chains to bind yourself only. Unconsciousness that we experience step by step. I pass on the revelation of these powers. Subtle, how they act, where they hide, and how they feed. Now we come to the most important threshold of this journey is recognition that you have the power. To close these doors you do not need a learned mystic still living in retreat. In the mountains it is necessary. Presence clarity becomes 3 keys that everyone can recover when he decides to go to the middle of his energy. True spiritual power is not screams, keep still in coherence in small but significant in every thought that you choose, not to nurture every emotion that you choose to transform, in every relationship that you purify, in every food that you bless. Every evening before going to bed, you cleanse your field with a clear intention. May only light dwell here. Protect yourself from energy parasites. It is not paranoia, but spiritual hygiene. When you wash your body, you must learn. Wash your aura to purify your mind. Sweep away energies that are not yours. Because the world is dangerous, but because your energy is precious, and everything valuable things must be cared for with reverence. This video is not intended to spread fear, but to awaken responsibility, because where there is consciousness, parasites are not. They survive where there is light, the darkness. Remove manipulation where there is truth. Dissolves, you have seen the invisible, you have understood that not everything you feel comes from you, have opened your eyes to the energy realities we face, surround, and that is already a form of release. Now the next step is up to you. To protect yourself, you will choose to honor your energy. As the holiest thing you possess, you choose live as a conscious guardian of your inner temple. If this content has resonated with you, if you feel that it provided you with valuable tools, I invite you to share and like it. Subscribe and activate the bell to receive more transformative revelations from the depths. But above all, now think for a moment, close your eyes and ask yourself, who or what lives in me that is not? It's me. Awakening is not a sudden event. It is a constant exercise, an act of love for your own soul. You are not weak. You are not at the mercy of the subtle world. You are the central sun of your field, energetic, and the time has come. Shine without interruptions.